Welcome back to Change Ed.
Change It.
The number one rated podcast in all of, well, wherever you're listening, that's where it's the number one rated podcast. I am an education consultant at the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit.
Who are you?
I'm Ader Kuhn, an education consultant with the Montgomery County Intermediate. You would think this is the first time I'm doing this. What is wrong?
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. I'm Ader Kuhn, co-host of your favorite show.
You're a co-host now?
Yeah, I just demoted myself. And here with me is...
My name is Patrice Semachek. I'm a little flabbergasted because one, you are a co-host, which has never ever happened in the history of Change Ed, but also you are an educational consultant today. I'm an education consultant because that's what we decided on a few episodes back.
Semantics.
I'm hot mess express today. But
we have a return guest though, if you can.
Woohoo!
We're very excited.
Our show will not be a hot mess. Just the co-host is a hot mess. That's right. We have with us the entirety of the Lancaster Lebanon Intermediate Unit. Everyone's here. It's a whole thing.
Having an IU13 party.
That's right. They have been begging me to come work for them. There was even a signing bonus. I can't get into the details, but this is as close as we can get. We have a wonderful partnership with them in Montgomery County, work very closely. Everyone on our show, we see them on a regular basis. Lots of collaboration going. I want to thank our guests for being such a great example, not only in your intermediate in the area you work, a great partner for us, but an amazing example across the state of what it can look like to cross proverbial borders and collaborate with each other. So thank you for doing it. This is the largest guest appearance that we've had on our show. So Patrice said that she wanted to be the one to figure out how to introduce everyone. So I'm going to toss it over to her.
Okay. So I was just going to go down the list, but I'll start with Ken Zimmerman.
Hey, everyone. It's great to be back. Thank you so much for having us back to be able to share a little bit. So I'm Ken Zimmerman, the Associate Program Director of Educational Technology and Innovation at Lancaster Lebanon IU13.
Keith Royer, again, I get to be back, so I'm excited to be back on again as well. Keith Royer, I'm an Instructional Technology Specialist at IU13.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tim Leister, longtime listener, first-time caller. Great to be here with you. I'm an Instructional Technology Specialist on the IU13 Educational Technology team. Great to be here.
I am Megan Smith. I am an instructional technology integrator on the EdTech team. Again, a newbie to being on here, but not a newbie to listening. We thought that you needed someone other than a Zimmerman, so we all came on.
We really appreciate that. We are very Zimmerman heavy from IU13. However, they've been very, very good guests.
So this is our instructional technology team at IU13. That's part of our EdTech team. There's some other members that aren't here with us today that focus in the online learning world.
Fabulous. We're excited because today you're going to talk to us about what you're doing in student-centered learning, right?
Yes, we are really excited to be able to have an opportunity to talk about student-centered learning. So, we've had a long journey with student-centered learning at IU13. And really, it started back in 2011 when we started hybrid learning. So back then, the real focus was the PA Hybrid Initiative, the Learning Institute. It was to promote station rotation. And we worked very hard supporting our districts in station rotation throughout those years. And it just continually was something that grew through district after district after they gained momentum and saw the changes in instructional practices and how students were responding to it. And so it was something that just continually grew through the years, which was exciting. And then it even moved into what we called the Personalized Learning Academy, which was the next steps, the next level from a station rotation model for 20 minutes ding to, from independent work to direct work to collaborative work to really focus in on student-centered learning strategies, a lot of learner agency and voice and choice in that process. And the Academy was started in 2018 and continually grew. And then that thing called, what was that pandemic called? It 5 years ago already. What was that? Oh, yeah, that COVID. So COVID hit, things changed dramatically for us, right? And everyone. And when we finally came together after COVID, station rotation continued on throughout that time, but it was really a need to be able to refocus what we were doing with today's classrooms, because the need at that point was student engagement, and student engagement was really tanking. And we know station rotation really helps the focus with students. And so we wanted to be able to refocus what's the work that we're really trying to do to be able to engage and motivate students in learning. And so at that point, then we really rebranded and refocused to a student-centered learning approach.
I think in both of your podcasts, Ken and Keith, you both talked a little bit about student-centered learning and station rotations. I remember specifically, Keith, we talked a lot about that. So we'll make sure we link those podcasts in the show notes so people can get a deeper dive into what those two look like.
Ken, I wanted to just jump on this briefly. You talked about hybrid learning, but you also talked about COVID. And I think when I hear hybrid learning post-COVID, I think of something different.
Right. Those words needed to change, right?
Okay. So ultimately, are we saying the hybrid learning was more of like the student-centered learning? That was a rebrand that we went with?
Yeah. In Pennsylvania in 2011, it was called hybrid because it was the mix of that digital online instruction with face-to-face instruction through a station rotation model.
Okay.
They didn't want to call it blended learning back then because they didn't want it to be confused with other blended learning schools that were currently available. So they coined it hybrid, which was really another name for station rotation.
Got it. I mean, I had a Ford Fusion hybrid. I got 40.
Oh, there you go.
Right. That's where I went initially. And then, I thought for our listeners, it'd be important to just separate that out. Because again, a lot of these terms that pre-COVID we never heard of now. It's, unprecedented times and pandemic.
Well, and a lot of the schools back then that were in it were still calling it hybrid. But then when COVID hit and that hybrid mentality came to play of part in school, part out of school, that totally wiped out what station rotation hybrid was back then, so that had to be rebranded, refocused. And
got it. Okay. Well, as I'm hearing this, I'm someone who's listening to the podcast. I'm like, this sounds great. I'm all in for student-centered learning. Who wouldn't be? What does that look like if I'm interested in gaining more professional learning? How would I go about getting involved with this and learning more about it as an educator?
I can jump in on that one. I know this is some of what I'm going to talk through. I did mention in my previous podcast as well. So this won't be quite as much of that, but I definitely want to get into kind of what we did. And I think Ken alluded to it really well on that hybrid term. We had to do something different, and we went and really was station rotation. And then we thought, what can we do more? And that's where the student-centered terminology came from. So part of that was the practice what you preach. We preach give students choice, give students choice, give students choice. So through the student-centered learning, professional learning, we decided, let's take a look at what we can do to also give teachers choice in what they do, because we want to put that out there as well. Because we found we were running some of the same workshops in districts, and it was the same one in this district and the same one in this district and the same one in this district. And one of the things that we really wanted to do is really divide out these topics and include newer things and trends into like multiple focused workshops where teachers had the choice to attend what spoke to them specifically. So it wasn't I'm going to go into this district, I'm going to work with these teachers. Now it's siloed here. They now have a cohort of people from other schools that we're all in this boat together. We're all working through this journey. But if I'm interested in learning more about differentiation, I can attend that specific workshop. If I feel like I'm good at differentiation, but I want to do something more with collaborative activities or student engagement, I have the opportunity to do that. So we really built choice into this so that teachers can dive into where they professionally want to grow in the student-centered learning model. We really want it to be it's not a district thing that we're going through. This is a journey that others are going through, and we're all on the same page. We're all working through the same things. We're not siloed anymore. We can all do this together. And with that flexibility, we brought along the lines of, we know there's a teacher shortage. We know substitutes are really hard to get. So we offered these workshops back-to-back days. So teachers have the opportunity to say, okay, I can send 3 teachers on one day. I can get those subs again the next day and send 3 other teachers. So we really wanted to help our districts work through those substitute issues. And the teachers had that flexibility of knowing this is a one-time thing. I miss it. Oh, too bad I can't. That we wanted to make sure they had other opportunities to be able to attend what they wanted to do. I think to kind of go along with that, right? We talk about the choice, what choices they have, what things can they dig into, that we created some options for them. So we developed student-centered learning workshops around classroom management, student engagement, collaboration, differentiation, leveraging AI, because that's one of the new trends, right? So we want, how do you leverage AI in a student-centered learning environment? Steels, ed tech. We did a refresher for those that went through it a long time ago. It's been around since 2011. So some of these teachers have been through the hybrid model. So we wanted to say, hey, if you've done this before and you want to come back to it, what does it look like now? So we have a refresher session that they can attend to kind of see how things have changed and shifted a little bit more in that student-centered learning environment. And then we also offer one for administrators and coaches on how to support their teachers that are going through this journey as well.
Nice.
One of the things I really love about the approach that you are taking and how you're talking about it is this choose your own adventure mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And as a youth, I loved reading those books because I felt like I was in control, right? Somebody else actually created the whole story, but
I didn't know you read.
It was a picture book version of this, but we digress. So, but feeling like I had some say in how it was going and sharing the ownership instead of us providing or delivering this development. Now you have a say.
Well, I think too, the conversation about having that voice and choice for teachers while we're over here preaching about voice and choice for kids, but not providing the option for teachers to be in charge of their own learning and just assuming everyone needs the same thing is what's detrimental to professional development as a whole. When we think about it, that's where we get those horrible memes about it's professional development and we're all calling in sick. Right. So giving me as an adult the option to choose my own learning based off of where I'm at and what I need is extremely powerful and creates tremendous
one
value.
size fits all approach, but it's also key about the timing. So the same workshops offer different times because oftentimes whole grade levels attend the cohorts. So all sixth grade can't be out anymore and be out for the day. So some can come one day, some can come the other day, have it offered at multiple times, gives them that flexibility.
Basically what we're doing is bringing, teachers love to go to conferences, right? Because you get to choose what you learn about.
Yeah.
So this is bringing that to like, right, a smaller, more focused level of, in the student-centered learning realm, it's just now they get to choose within that what they want to do. So it's almost that same conference style where they have the power to make that choice.
Love it.
Well, thank you. That's super helpful. And right now we've got pathways in. So I guess my question would be, let's say I attended your choose your own adventure learning PD and I come back to the district's all in. So what does it look like for the district?
Or a way to continue the learning. Like I feel like sometimes we get stuck in, like I've been to a PD and a once and done, and we all know that those don't really work. So is there a way to continue the learning beyond the days that they're in the space?
Yeah, I think I'll take it from there. So as Keith had mentioned, a lot of the flexibility with starting with the station rotation, 2-day training is kind of where we ground the work and kind of put some of those principles in and then allow the flexibility with the choosing of your workshops. But as we all know, even that choice and that level of picking areas that they want to focus in, it's also different from classroom to classroom and grade level to grade level. So our team also supports these teachers, not just with professional learning here at IU13, but also in their classrooms because their physical spaces are very different. So what it looks like in a first grade classroom versus a 10th grade classroom, if they have terrible all-in-one desks that we've all had to sit in, looks very different than if they have flexible furniture space to move around. So for us to be in their classrooms, see the type of technology that they have, see the type of learning space that they have, and kind of spend time with them is really helpful as we give them some advice along the way. So we come into districts for a day or for a half day. We offer sign-up times for the teachers to sign up. And those sign-up times could be, hey, let's just talk for 15 minutes. We'll be a thought partner for you on a problem of practice that you're working through at this very moment. I was actually in a district today and had several meetings with teachers about, individual students that they're struggling with. Getting a new student halfway through the year, how do we get them up to speed with the routines and the procedures of their classroom? And because they've set all of those procedures up at the beginning of the year to make it run like a well-oiled machine, what do they do when they have new students coming in with new and different needs? So we talk through those issues. Sometimes we'll actually watch a classroom in action. I got to do that today as well. And this teacher was fantastic and she was doing some great things. And, I just wanted to give her so many kudos for trying different things out, making it work for her, being able to rotate through different modalities of learning in a math classroom. That's very different because it's so skill-based versus, say, an English classroom where it opens maybe more flexibility for projects and those types of things. So for us to be able to go to different classrooms and hear the experiences and stories from the teachers, we can then better share those stories with others because we've seen teachers work through these problems in practice, and we can offer advice and say, I was in a classroom just the other day and this is what the teacher was doing. And maybe that strategy will help you to work through that. So, that individual one-on-one attention, we think can really add to it. So by building in those coaching days periodically inside of the professional learning opportunities at the IU, we think it just keeps that momentum going. So as like Patrice said, it's not just a one and done PD. They know the support is going to be ongoing. So if they're getting frustrated or they're trying to work through something, they'll know there'll be a time to kind of meet with one of the learning coaches at some point and talk through it. So we think it's an important part of adult learning to be able to come on site and have those one-on-one conversations to make sure we're kind of meeting their individual needs. This isn't necessarily easy work. It's much easier to stand and deliver to everyone at the same time. So we recognize it's difficult and changes take time.
Tim, you bring up a really good point about that work time also, because when we're in their classrooms, we're seeing the great things that they're doing. And a lot of teachers are really hesitant to share those great things unless somebody else says, hey, will you share? So when we've been in these workshops, we've been able to connect people across districts because we've been in a classroom and seeing something that someone maybe didn't think was as exciting, but we're seeing those connections and can help use those relationships.
I love that. I also love the idea of continuing to give teachers immediate feedback, because just like for our kids, if you're giving feedback 6 weeks after you've been in the room, it's not going to do what we want it to do. So having that instructional coach type model there is really impactful for moving them forward and helping them be successful in this model.
You're talking about it too, I feel like leads into systems change. We're doing all this work to empower others and to help them see it, but also make it happen in their space, give them that immediate feedback. Are there other ways that within student-centered learning, within the work that you do, what does that systems change look like?
So all of us have been instructional coaches at one point or the other and been able to see both sides, the teacher side and then the instructional coach side. And when you have that vision, you're able to see the administrator side too, and how much they are trying to provide support, but can only do so much. They can't be in all the places at once. So like Keith had said, we have a leadership and coaching workshop that we provide twice a year where it's a half day. I think it's only like 2.5 hours, because we recognize that their time, while everyone's time is precious, their time is so very limited. So we bring them in to talk through what is student-centered learning. Because when you think of student-centered learning, everyone's like, okay, got it. Students at the center. But the definition that we're using is really specific and broad all at the same time, where we're talking about equitable learning experiences. We're making sure that learning is relevant. We're adapting to unique needs and interests, and it's really dynamic. So we get into that concept of what is student-centered learning and what could this look like in a classroom. So we go and meet with administrators 4 times a year, and we invite them to bring whoever they would like to come. So we sometimes are meeting with a curriculum coordinator. Sometimes we're meeting with an entire team where they have coaches with them as well, and they can really have that district planning with our additional support of what does that look like in terms of what the teachers are going through. We have some teachers that we're working with who are really working hand in hand with their administrator so that they can really drive change inside of their own classroom, but then support each other too.
Yeah. And one of the other things, just to jump in, is we also provide those coaches and administrators with student-centered learning and station rotation specific rubrics for the classroom so that they know what they're going in to look for, what they're seeing, whether teachers are just starting or teachers have been in it. So we provide them that information that they can use as an instructional leader to help guide the teachers going through this process.
That's immensely helpful.
And a lot of what I was hearing, and I've already copyrighted this and I've coined this term, so I expect royalties, but you're offering teacher-centered professional development, that you want to be very specific and intentional.
No, I'd say we already filed that trademark.
Oh, there you go.
I unfiled it to file mine. It's the whole thing.
Yeah. But it's exciting to see how things progress. Break down those silos.
I was literally just thinking that a lot of teachers live in their own little island, and doing something like this is not a small task, having done it myself. And when you have the support of someone else in another district, or even the support from someone IU 13, it just makes it seem a little bit easier. And I was thinking about the sustainability of this. The fact that you've been doing this since 2011 really shows that there's a massive impact that can happen and is happening in your area. And from what you guys have talked about, it's just growing and growing and growing. And so it's really exciting to see an initiative that is sticking
Yep.
And that
And
is
survived the pandemic.
Yeah. And it's
and continues to
benefiting
grow.
kids and
Yep.
teachers.
Yep.
Like this is a
Definitely.
win-win for everybody.
Definitely. And I also have to mention that if you're listening to this podcast and you're from, another part of Pennsylvania outside of IU 13 region, each intermediate unit has their own student-centered learning point of contact. And so reach out to your IU to be able to support you. They're trained, they're working through providing resources for you to be able to enter student-centered learning or get you plugged into the Pennsylvania Student-Centered Learning Network.
Yeah, that's an awesome plug for, again, this is all about collaboration. That's the theme that I'm hearing throughout is how do we collaborate and how do we break down the silos? We thought it would make a lot of sense as a throwback to 2011 to determine who was going to get to do the second to last final thought by having a live Mortal Kombat match, because that was very big in 2011. So we're actually going to start live streaming now, and we're just going to go, right? Last person standing gets the second to
unless anyone wants to bow out now.
I'm kind of scared. I don't know what's happening.
This win arrived very quickly.
So I can do the get over here.
We're going to open it up and see if anybody has a second to last final thought, something you didn't get to say, or I know how to quiet a Zoom room. Still got it, you guys.
I'll say this because it's one of the taglines that we have at IU 13 is work worth doing. We say that a lot around here, and we feel passionate about what we're doing. And a lot of the hard work and the decisions that we make are all part of that process. So work worth doing and collaborating and all the things that we talked about for the last few minutes here, I think is really important. So even though it's not easy work, it's hard work, it's worth doing.
That is a mic drop, folks.
I was going to say, Andrew doesn't have to do his final thought, but he will.
But he's going way.
Every time.
Started out messy. I'm going to end strong.
At least he stopped pretending that it's not the last word and it's a special treat. Everyone knows it's Andrew has to finish.
I was really down for the Mortal Kombat. I love that you are silo breaker downers. And that's a message that we all should be in our own way. Not that we're going to burn down the silo, but let's start taking the pieces apart so that we can start working together and take a note out of the book of IU 13 and collaborate. I mean, honestly, I like Tim's mic drop better, but I felt like I had to, for tradition purposes, I had to say something.
Yep. Hashtag work worth doing. There we go.
Yeah.
You could break your own silo and stop doing that. Or not.
I'm just going to stick with my copyright that I said earlier in the podcast.
There you go.